Okay, so now we are going to discuss the new annotations that have been added since Spring version 4, which simplifies this way of writing request mapping. Now, if we look carefully on all of these request mapping, which we have here, we see that basically they are the same. The only difference in them is the HTTP method, and sometimes the path changes. And since Spring 4, we have a new way of writing this, which simplifies our reading and also our time spent coding. So let me just uncomment this, and I'm going to write the new way. So basically the new way is you will put the HTTP method and then mapping. And you can put something like get mapping API peoples. So this annotation is the same as the one above. So it's much more clearer because it's basically, if we go here, you will see that it inherits the annotation request mapping and adds this request method get by default. So basically it's much more clearer here. Now if we go here, let me just uncomment this and do the same. So get mapping API people's person ID. Let me uncomment this. Okay. So now it's post mapping API peoples, and also if we go here, you will see it implements the same annotation. It inherits, not it implements, and it adds request method post, and you can imagine that it's the same for all the others. So put mapping, I need to put here the person ID, and here it should be delete mapping, and I need to put the person ID also. Now I'm going to delete this request mapping. I just wanted you to have as a reference. You can delete them, you cannot delete them, it's your choice. I'm also going to delete this. Now let me restart the application and test if it still works. I'm going to go here. So it still works. Save one people. Let me just save this. So it still works. Let me just delete the one which I have added. 5. It still works. Okay, so it works. But I want to show you another thing. So you see here I have this API. It repeats every time we add an endpoint. Now you can add this general mapping on the top level class in your controller. So we can add here a request mapping and we can put API. Now I can delete this. And basically, what does it mean when you add on the class level? When you call this method, to call this method is basically something like this. So it is your IP, port number, API, and peoples. So in our case, it's localhost 8080 API peoples, because this is the first thing that it will add, and then this is the second thing which will register this method as a request mapping. So now if we if we restart this, okay, I forgot to delete this here, but it's no problem. You see that it still works, and now we won't have the need to add this API to our endpoint anymore. So that's all about get mapping, post mapping, delete mapping, and so on.